Good morning, Maryville. You are listening to the first quarter with Gage Kaler, Cade Ricketts, and Michael Bosch. We are not doing our typical Monday session because Michael decided it would be a good idea to go to the Big Ten tournament this past weekend.
You don't got to call me out.
How was that experience?
It was pretty cool. Chicago's pretty nice.
Yeah. A little disappointed in your Hawkeyes.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, what we are going to talk about, though, is NCAA tournament just started yesterday. A couple matchups early on. We had 16 seed Southeast Missouri State played against Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi moved on there, defeating the Red Hawks 75-71, and number 11 Pitt beat number 11 Mississippi State, and they will play Iowa State now. So that game was actually really intense there toward the end. Mississippi State was down one, had a man wide open in the corner, and just straight up missed a three. And then another guy came up, got the offensive rebound, and then just missed a wide open tip, and that's how Pitt escaped with that win. That was pretty.
And then even after the buzzer, another guy tried to tip it in,
yeah.
and it still didn't go in.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild ending. Great start to March Madness. It's what you got to love about this month.
Yeah, that was one of those games. Talk about a good play design on that last play. They got the shot. He was wide open, but, Mississippi State being like a 30% three-point shooting team really showed right there, especially, honestly, throughout that whole game. That's one of those games, if they maybe shot a better three, they probably could have won that one.
Yeah, and same with SEMO. I believe they shot 9 for 21 on free throws, 9 for 20 on free throws yesterday, and people say free throws won game, and SEMO lost by 4. Missed 11 free throws. Got to hit them. So we're actually going to do a special today. Since March Madness has started, we thought we'd do a little tournament bracket with us three. So how this is going to work, we're just going to do majority rules. That team moves on, and so on. So do we really want to talk about the 1 seeds at all?
I think we're probably good just to push 1-3 seeds through.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking too, because the only one in the past we have the UMDC team beating that Virginia team, and it's not likely to happen again this year. Pretty strong 1 seeds, besides maybe Purdue. That's my biggest if, but we'll talk about that later. 2 seeds, I feel the same way. If you guys are cool with that, just going ahead and move them on. And Arizona, and Texas, UCLA, and who's that other one? Marquette.
Maybe really quick before we push on the 2 seeds, there's always seems to be at least 1 2 seed in the last couple of years that does lose. Predicting that can be extremely difficult. I feel like the 2 seeds are pretty strong this year, but if you guys had to pick 1 2 seed that was going to lose this year, who are you guys feeling that could be that 2 seed? If you just had to pick one.
It's so hard to pick. I've seen a lot of people take UNC Asheville over UCLA.
Yeah. And I could agree with that one. If there had to be one, I think UCLA is a really good team, and obviously it would be a crazy upset, but they still are definitely injured. It's not UCLA at full strength, and I think UNC Asheville is they're a good team for being a 15 seed.
Yeah, that was going to be my pick, but I'll be a little bit different. I think the other one that has potential of maybe being an upset is Marquette getting bounced in the first round against Vermont, just because I know how well Vermont shoots. I know their defense isn't a strong suit on that team, and Marquette has obviously been great all year. But like you said, there's always that 1-2 seed that appears to not show up in the tournament. And with Vermont's offensive firepower, I could just see them squeaking by Marquette there. So
you're going Vermont.
If I'm not going Vermont, if there were to be a 2 seed to fall, I would pick Vermont over
when you see
Marquette.
these upsets, it is definitely Vermont's a good 3-point shooting team. So any team that can hit the 3, if you're shooting 60% in a game, you're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah. Yep. So do we want to start at the top of the bracket with the South?
Yeah, let's start with Bama, like the Bama side.
Okay.
Yep. So that would be the first game is Maryland, West Virginia.
Yes, number 8 Maryland against number 9 West Virginia. Personally, I'd go for West Virginia just because Big 12 basketball, really strong conference. I've watched them play a couple games this year. Both were against Iowa State, though. They got a strong offensive game. Their defense isn't really their strong suit. Yeah, so I'd go West Virginia personally.
Yeah, I would too. I'm just looking at the numbers and
No, I definitely agree. The Big 12 is probably the strongest basketball conference this year.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to want to debate that at some ways, but I mean, 4-8 versus top 25 isn't great, but it is definitely some experience there. You got a lot of games against good teams playing in the Big 12, and I mean, I just believe in Bob Huggins to get it done.
So we're moving on, West Virginia.
yeah.
All right. Game number 2, San Diego State, number 5 against number 12 Charleston.
Neither team has beat a top 25 opponent.
Yeah, I mean, San Diego State's coming out of that Mountain West conference. That's not great competition, but I couldn't even tell you what conference Charleston's coming out of. And I don't think they played anybody besides early on they played North Carolina whenever they were expected to be really good this year.
So they lost by 16 to North Carolina, beat Kent State, which is in the tournament, by 2, and Virginia Tech by 2.
Okay.
I am going to go Charleston here. And here's my reason behind that. I mean, you got to pick 12-5 upsets are pretty common. And I love their point spread. Their opponent's points per game is 67.4, and they're averaging 80.8. I mean, that shows, if you get that big of a point spread, that shows you're pretty good offensively and you're pretty good defensively. You're doing both things pretty well. And you got to pick an upset. And I think of all the 5 seeds, they're probably one of the weakest. So I will lean. And I've seen quite a few people kind of go in Charleston as well. So I will vote Charleston on this one.
I like the Charleston too.
I'm not going to follow that trend. I lost anyway, so it's 2-1. I just like San Diego State because their defensive prowess is really good.
Yeah.
And Charleston, they just haven't really played up to the competition. You can
definitely.
say the same thing about San Diego State, but I believe San Diego State's competition has been slightly tougher than Charleston's.
Yeah.
You're right. Charleston's offense has been outrageous this year. But I just think San Diego State beats them. But we'll move on, Charleston.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games, really quick, last thing on it. It's definitely, if San Diego State's defense can even maintain Charleston and slow them down a little bit, they'll probably end up winning the game. But it just depends on how the competition level going against maybe a higher level defense than they face and how that impacts them.
Okay. So up next we have number 4 Virginia against number 13 Furman. In my opinion, I think the 13 seeds are very strong this year. I could see 3 out of the 13 seeds winning.
Wow.
I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to stick with my guns here and go Virginia. I think it's going to be a very tight game, though. I know Furman, another one of those schools that's small, has strong offensive firepower, and but Virginia has that experience. They're an older team, and I just think Virginia moves on. Barely, though.
I definitely agree with this one. I'll go Virginia. I always like Virginia. Maybe a little biased towards them. I always have them doing pretty good. I just think they have usually good experience in the tournament. They've been there. And I mean, they definitely played better competition than Furman. And I think in the tournament, you get into these games, especially in the round of 64, that are going to be closer than you expect. And I always think Virginia, the way they play, they just slow the game down so much. They always are in close games, and they seem to, more often than not, find a way to win these close games. So I think they're very well built for the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also agree. I think just Virginia's going to be more battle-tested coming in here. I think it'll be like a single-digit scoring game, as you know most games are in March Madness, but I'm going to go Virginia.
My biggest concern with Virginia is, since their pace of play is so slow, if they aren't making their shots, they might be done for. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
that's why I could see Furman coming out with that one, but I do think Virginia pulls that one out. Number 6, Creighton versus number 11, NC State.
Creighton ranked 11th in the BPI,
Okay, so
so they're pretty highly looked at according to the statistics.
according to the numbers, but
Yeah.
as we found out in March, numbers don't always matter.
Yeah, if it mattered, then there'd be a lot of perfect brackets.
I am not too high on NC State personally. The ACC's fairly weak. Your best competition there is Miami, probably, or Duke, one of those two schools. The Big East has always been pretty loaded. They always perform in the tournament. I'm going to go Creighton here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Creighton, but it says since 2014, the 11 seeds have won 14 out of the last 24 meetings.
Yes.
Yep.
So
It's-
usually it's like 50-50.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild stat.
I mean, you're 6'11". I feel like, I mean,
It's closer than it looks.
yeah, it always is. But I definitely agree. I'll go Creighton here too. I
Yeah.
think Creighton's one of those teams that if they can even get a little bit of momentum going, they're kind of dangerous. So
Number 3 Baylor against number 14 UC Santa Barbara. Do you want to start with that one, Cade?
yeah, I mean, I'm feeling Baylor here. I don't love Baylor at all, but I definitely feel like they have a pretty easy path. And starting out against UCSB,
Yeah, UC Santa Barbara.
one of the lowest BPI rankings in the tournament. They got a 124
Not a great look.
against Baylor's 12. And like I said, about same thing with West Virginia. They are so battle tested coming out of the Big 12, so definitely Baylor here.
Yeah, I'll also be going Baylor.
This is another one of those games I could see an upset in. But Michael, what was that stat earlier we were talking about? It was teams that rank in the top 10 in offense.
Yeah, it was so teams that rank. Well, they were like 1, 2, or 3. I can't remember. I think they were third in offense, but then they had the 100th ranked defense, and those teams never made it out of the Sweet 16. And it was them, Iowa, and Mizzou, I think.
Yeah, and that's why I could see this game as an upset because, I mean, Baylor's giving up 70 points a game, which is terrible. But they played well all year. I don't really see them losing this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got upset. Performed well the past 2 tournaments, so I'm going to move on Baylor. I agree with you guys.
Then your guys' game.
Yeah.
I'm extremely biased. I'll go Missouri.
Okay, so this game is number 7 Missouri against number 10 Utah State, and sad part about this is Utah State is one of the few lower seeds to actually be favored in their game by 1.5 last time I checked. I don't know what it is now.
I just feel like when I watch Mizzou play and they're hot, they look kind of unbeatable. But then when they struggle, it's
Not even close.
yeah.
I will say, though, I mean, talk about encouraging losses. That loss to Alabama, we couldn't hit anything, and neither could they. And I think that was a real testament to our defense. We're playing one of the top. I mean, Alabama's got a great offense, and our defense was slowing them down. So I think a big asterisk on Missouri, you look at them and they're like, oh, well, they're this horrible defensive team. And we have been, but I really do feel like as of late, especially in the SEC tournament, our defense has been coming on strong, especially when you watch us, the way we were able to slow down Tennessee, outscore them, and then same thing with Alabama. I mean, that was a back-and-forth game until about 7-8 minutes left in the second, and Alabama kind of got that 6, 7, 10-point cushion as they kind of pulled away.
Yeah, Mizzou is one of those teams where if our defense is on, they're on, and if they're not, we're more than likely not going to win that game. I think that we'll have enough to get by Utah State. It's going to be close, but I think Missouri ends up winning that game.
Yeah, I'll rock out with you. I'll rock out with the Mizzou pick.
All right, cool. So Mizzou moves on. Moving on to the east side of the bracket. Purdue advanced. They were 1 seed. We don't even know who they're playing yet. That game's tonight between Farley Dickinson and Texas Southern. So Memphis and Florida Atlantic. Memphis is one of my sleeper teams this year. They won their tournament in the AAC against Houston. That being said, Houston had a guy out, but the way they played, I had never seen any team do that against Houston this year. Besides, they got beat by somebody really bad earlier this year, but I don't remember who it was. But they are 13-5 in conference. BPI is 31st, which isn't great. But there's obviously worse teams out there, and they're 2-3 against the top 25, and one of those wins is Houston. So I'm picking Memphis in this one.
Yeah, I'm picking in 2 of the losses in the top 25 is Houston also, but they lost to Bama by 3, they beat A&M by 4, and they beat Auburn by 9. So, they're pretty battle tested also. They've played some good teams, and they beat 3 of them.
And the big team everyone's high on is Oral Roberts, and that's another team I think they beat them by about 40. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think coming out of that conference championship, they look so good. I feel like they're just going to ride that momentum into this game.
So we all sticking with Memphis?
yeah, I'm feeling Memphis here.
All right. Speaking of Oral Roberts, they played Duke as a 12 seed, and Duke's going to be 5. I'm not on the Oral Roberts train.
See, I totally was before the picks were made. Oral Roberts was definitely on my team. Like, oh yeah, wherever they go, I got them in the upset. This team, they can score like nobody's business. But when they drew Duke, I was like, I got quiet really quick, and I was like, well, maybe not if they draw Duke. So,
And I would have loved to watch this team make a deep run again. But that, like you said, that draw of Duke is so tough. It's an experienced team. They're hot now, and I just have a hard time seeing Oral Roberts pulling this one out.
only thing I would say, as far as an experienced team, this is a first-year head coach.
It is a first-year head coach.
And he's been around, and it's not really like his first time in the tournament, but it technically is his first time as a head coach in March. So, but that being said, I still think Duke will win. But maybe that will put some how far will they go with him. So,
Yeah, and Duke's a good defensive team. Oral Roberts is a great offensive team with Max Abesmith, but I don't see him making a run again. So I'm going Duke.
I could see this one being an upset. I mean, any of these could be upsets, but I'll go with Duke because they've been, you guys have said how good they've been playing recently.
All going Duke. Duke advances. Number 4, Tennessee against number 13, Louisiana.
the Raging Cajuns.
The Raging Cajuns.
And BPI ranked 2, but you guys aren't high on Tennessee, right?
Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a good team, but the way Missouri kind of handled them in the SEC tournament, that was surprising to me. But Tennessee, you want to talk about experience, they definitely have a couple guys that have been there before. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think in this game it's definitely Tennessee, but we'll see going forward. That creates a really good matchup in the next round.
Yeah, Tennessee has been notorious chokers in the past, but I think they sneak by Louisiana.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a close game, though. It's another one of those games I could see an upset. What did I say? Three of the 4 13s I could see winning, and Louisiana's another one of them. But I'm still going to go Tennessee. So number 6 Kentucky against number 11 Providence. What either of you guys want to take this one real quick? Start with it.
I've seen someone say they don't see Kentucky and Duke both making it past first round. One of them's going to lose, and we took Duke. But, man, it's hard to tell with Providence.
I haven't watched a single Providence game this year. I'm not going to lie. I don't know much about them.
So they beat UConn. They've swapped with UConn, swapped with Marquette, swapped with Creighton, lost to Xavier twice. So they played good teams.
It's the Bryce Hopkins revenge game is what it is. The former Kentucky transfer. So if we're going here, I'll pick first, and I'll go Providence. I like Providence in this game. I watch Kentucky down the stretch. I watch a lot of SEC basketball, and Kentucky's definitely one of those teams. They just haven't ever really put it all together. They always have the talent, but it can be young talent, and they're just offensively they can just go so cold sometimes. And it really showed against Vanderbilt in that game, where they let Vanderbilt go on some good runs. Is really the reason Vanderbilt beat them.
And playing the statistics, the 11 seeds win pretty much. It's 50-50. We picked the Creighton up top, so. Playing devil's advocate.
You're going to go Providence?
On the statistics.
Yeah.
I lean more Kentucky just because of Oscar Tshiebwe. I'm a big fan of his.
He's really good.
So I'm going Kentucky, but again, majority rules. Providence moves on. Kansas State, number 3 against number 14, Montana State. I don't really feel like there's much need for discussion on this one.
Yeah, it's obviously Montana now. Yeah, definitely K-State here.
They're so good.
Yeah.
I've caught a lot of their games this year, and honestly, they might be the best team in the Big 12. But hot take, but might be the best.
Only
team
thing I've seen with K-State is when they get sloppy and they start turning the ball over.
Yes.
They become horrible so fast. It's really the reason I remember watching the Texas Tech game when they lost to Texas Tech, and I think they were like a top 10 ranked team at the time. And you're like, how are they losing to Texas Tech? Granted, I think Tech kind of got hot there at the end of the year, but They got to just control the ball, and then, I mean, get some of these lower seeds, these lower schools, I mean, they know what your weakness is, and they're going to try to expose it, so. But I definitely think they shouldn't have too much of a problem. But maybe going forward, we'll see what that does.
So we're all in agreement with K-State. Number 7, Michigan State against number 10, USC.
You know, I've watched some Michigan State games, and they're another team where they're really sometimes on and then really off. They're really inconsistent, I feel like. And this is one where I have USC kind of pulling the upset off. I don't know if it's much of an upset, 10-7, but
Yeah, I haven't watched either of these teams very much this year. To me, it always seems like Michigan State performs in the playoffs aside from the year that they were favored to win against Middle Tennessee. But it's just, I have a hard time seeing USC pulling this one out. So I lean more Michigan State. So, Cage, you get to break the tie.
I am going to go USC.
Okay.
I also like USC in this game. Just right before the tournament on the 2nd of this month, they played Arizona in a really close game, and they kind of showed in that game to me that they can hang with some good teams. They did lose by 5, but I do like them in this game. So, yeah, I'll go USC.
All right. So USC moves on. I am losing these tiebreakers like crazy. Michael, I'll let you definitely start on this. Oh, we already talked about Marquette. Move them on. I said that could be the 2 seed that loses.
Yeah.
Already moved on Houston. So we are now in the Midwest portion of the bracket, which is Houston's bracket. And Michael, I'll let you take this lead on this one. So does your team.
yeah. And when I'm, picking teams, even for the Chiefs, you got to take bias out of it. And Iowa just can never, ever perform in the tournament. Been bounced. Every year they've even had a chance. They had Luka Garza and Keegan Murray, and you have the 2 players of the year, and you can't do it. So, and then this year, when you don't have either of them, it's hard for me to see it. And they just play when their shots aren't falling. Iowa can hardly beat teams, so I'm gonna go Auburn. But if I think Iowa could easily win it, but just off the pass play, I'm just gonna go pick off that.
Yeah, and it goes back to that statistic from earlier, that top 10 offense and bottom 100 defense. Iowa's defense has just been atrocious this year.
They just don't have a big man, like a real center.
Yeah. And I believe that's Auburn's strong suit is in the paint scoring. So I'm going to go Auburn. It's a bad pool for Iowa
Yeah.
against that team, but luck of the draw. I'm going Auburn.
I'm also going to go Auburn. We'll give Auburn the sweep here. Auburn's just one of those teams, man. They can get good, too. They lost in the first round against Arkansas in the SEC tournament, but I watched what they did to my Tigers, which was one of our worst games of the years. When they get hot, they are a tough team to beat, and especially, once again, right before the tournament, they beat Tennessee, and they played Alabama into overtime. So
Yeah.
I do like Auburn here. I think it's a tough draw for Iowa, for sure. Sorry about that, Michael.
Number 5, Miami against number 12, Drake. Drake came out of the Missouri Valley Conference, which is one of those conferences that seems to always perform in the playoffs, with Loyola Chicago in the past, and Wichita State in the past, and Northern Iowa in the past. But they haven't really done much recently besides the Loyola, which was 3 or 4 years ago. Miami's a very high-powered offense, but, I mean, Drake's a great defensive team. So I could still see this one being a toss-up. I'm still leaning toward Miami, though. What do you guys say?
You know,
Does
Go ahead.
Does Miami isn't one of Miami's key players injured?
Yeah, I saw. Oh man.
I'm not too sure.
No, I think you're right. There's something to do with some player was injured, and I don't know if he was completely out or questionable or what the whole deal was with that.
Well, that could make or break my take, actually.
So it said Norchad Omir
Yeah,
twisted his ankle in the final minutes.
was it the Duke game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I don't know. They haven't. I mean, there's still a chance he'll play, but I'm really not sure. But of our 5-12s, we already got one. I usually like to go for two. And of our 5-12 matchups we have left, I'll go Miami. all that being said, I'll go Miami here.
Yeah, I don't really know his injury, but I'll go Miami too. But I could see the Drake upset.
It could also come down to how serious that ankle injury is, like you said, Michael.
That's
Well,
what
it really could affect him going forward too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna impact them for when the next matchup when we talk about them is that injury.
So next we have number 4 Indiana against number 13 Kent State. This is probably my biggest upset of the tournament. I know Kent State can shoot the lights out, like all 5 of their guys on the court. Their BPI rank is really bad, but again, how much does that mean? Honestly, it's
Yeah, the Indiana, like just looking at that team, it just doesn't make sense. They beat Purdue twice, which is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just styles because they beat Purdue twice. They've lost to Iowa twice. They got smoked by Kansas, got beat pretty good by Arizona, and then they split with the rest of the Big Ten. So
Kent State's one of those teams. It's really hard to get a read on them. Some of the biggest games you can look at is they played Gonzaga, and they lost 73-66 against Gonzaga. They lost to Houston 49-44. So they're playing some of your top-ranked teams in the tournament closely.
And what's Indiana's like good player? Trace, like Jackson Davis, or I can't think. I always forget his name.
yeah, Trace Jackson Davis.
I mean, maybe that's why they're so good against Purdue is because he's a hard matchup for Zach Edey, being like a more agile and athletic center, power forward. So I don't really know what Kent State's center. Because if Kent State has like a center who can kind of guard him, I feel like they can easily win this.
Now, it says Kent State is a bit undersized,
I mean,
but they force a lot of turnovers.
I think Indiana's undersized
Yeah.
because he is their like center. They kind of run.
Kent State's one of those scrappy teams that's going to try to force a lot of turnovers to get some fast break points on you and hit their threes. And if they're hitting their threes and doing all those things,
But yeah, I'm gonna
Sneaky.
I'm gonna take Kent State. I haven't been too impressed with Indiana this year.
I'm going Kent State too.
well, I guess in this one, I'll go Kent State.
Doesn't really matter what you
Doesn't really
think.
matter, but I'll go Kent State too.
Number 6 Iowa State against the number 11 Pitt. I've watched a lot of Iowa State basketball this year because my roommate is a big Iowa State fan. I'm not too impressed with the team. That being said, watching Pitt last night, they looked terrible. But I picked Pitt in my original bracket. After watching that game, I don't know. Iowa State's defense is highly impressive, and if Pitt plays like they did last night, they're not going to come away with that game.
The biggest thing to look at is for me, it's so hard, is Iowa State. I mean, other than having Baylor's number, they've been ice cold
Yes.
for a while. I mean, they recently lost to K-State, Texas, Oklahoma, West Virginia, beat Baylor again, then got smoked by Kansas.
Yeah.
So,
But again, it comes back to that Big 12 narrative.
yeah.
It's tricky. I'm still going to go Pitt here. I'm not confident with that pick, but I'm still leaning Pitt slightly.
I'll go Iowa State. I'll just go from the battle-tested Big 12. A lot of tough games. They've played better opponents. They've had some, even though they lost to good teams, they were close. And I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going off the battle testedness of Iowa State also.
And for the third time, you're outvoted.
All right. Number 3, Xavier against number 14, Kennesaw State. I don't know much about Kennesaw State at all. But Xavier's played well this year. Give up a lot of points, though, so that could be a big difference maker. I think I said Xavier could be the lone 3 that loses, if there is a 3 to lose to.
It says that Kennesaw State has won 16 of their last 18 games entering tournament play. So they're
Hot.
yeah.
I like Xavier here. I think they had a good win against Providence before the tournament, and during their tournament of the Big East tournament, they kind of had Creighton's number. I was really looking forward to that game. I remember Xavier Creighton. I definitely want to watch that. And I mean, Xavier just kind of just handled them the whole way. They won that game against Creighton 82-60. And I mean, I just think they got a good draw here for Xavier, even though they aren't the most consistent team. But I definitely like Xavier to beat Kennesaw State.
Yeah, I like Xavier too.
Yeah, I'll go Xavier.
All right. Number 7, Texas A&M against number 10, Penn State.
Two extremely hot teams right now.
Yeah, Penn State made the Big Ten championship, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yes, they lost. Was it to Purdue by 2?
Yes.
Yeah, and they honestly should have won that.
They're very similar teams too.
Yeah.
They're two hot teams. This is maybe one of the most anticipated games of the round of 64, I would say.
My difference maker there is Wade Taylor for Texas A&M, though.
Yeah.
He's the best player in that game. To me, that's what's going to make or break this game. So I lean Texas A&M.
A&M is one of those, I think, those unlucky teams. I think they were seeded too low. I think they should be a higher seed. I don't like that they're in the situation of being a 7 seed.
I thought they were going to be a 5.
I thought they'd be a
honestly.
5 or a 6. I mean, they're 15th in the BPI, and you're getting a 7 seed. That just doesn't even make sense. But, you know, they were looking at that non-conference where they weren't really good at the beginning of the year. They definitely figured it out late, but in conference, they were just as good as Alabama, if I'm being honest. I mean, yeah, they didn't look great in that game against Alabama, but I like A&M here, regardless of how hot Penn State is.
I would have took Penn State, but I'm cool with going A&M on this. They're really good.
I finally win one.
And
All right.
and the A&M Texas matchup would be really cool.
Yeah, it would be.
The
That'd
Battle
be a
of
good
Texas.
One. Already moved on Kansas. They play Howard. Number 8 Arkansas against number 9 Illinois. I think this is going to be a really good game, honestly.
Yeah. I think on this one, I think I'm gonna go Illinois just because of Arkansas.
I think we have two teams here that are super similar identities. I think both these teams have underachieved extremely heavy. I think these rosters are both extremely talented, but I just know Arkansas can just they have a lot of tournament experience on this team. And I watched Illinois this year. I'm not super impressed with Illinois. I know I've only watched them on a couple of their bad games where they lost, so I'm maybe not giving Illinois enough of credit here, but I'm going to feel Arkansas here. And I love the Arkansas matchup against Kansas in the next round, too.
Yeah, I came into this wanting to say Arkansas, but the more I sit here and think about it, I just want to lean Illinois. And I don't know why it's drawing me toward Illinois, but I want to go Illinois on this one.
Alrighty.
So Illinois advances. And this is one of my favorite matchups. Number 5 St. Mary's against number 12 VCU. I'll let you start with this, Cade, because I know that you like this one too.
Yeah, this is when I was talking earlier about my 12-5 mismatches. There's usually I like to go about 2 of them. I almost did our last game, but yeah, I'm definitely liking VCU in this game. I think VCU has good. I think these teams, they match up kind of similar. Both have good defenses. Both have pretty okay offenses, but I don't know. I'm not a big believer in St. Mary's, and I like the matchup, so I'll go VCU is where I'm feeling it.
Yeah, St. Mary's was pretty much Gonzaga's only competition in the West Coast Conference this year. But I really like that VCU team. I only caught one game of theirs, which was their championship game against Dayton. But they looked strong in that game. And Dayton really wasn't that bad of a team. I say that, but they didn't win. They didn't make the tourney. But I lean VCU. What do you want to go with this, Michael?
I'm cool to go with VCU. You know, we need some upsets in here.
I just think, yeah, VCU is one of those teams. I mean, when you see them on the court, they're a big team. So I think their size is going to help them win this one.
Number 4 UConn against number 13 Iona.
I'm taking UConn.
Yeah, I don't even think this one's really going to be that close. UConn's probably the strongest 4, in my opinion.
Yeah, the 6th ranked BPI.
UConn's extremely strong, but you don't sleep on Rick Pitino.
No, you don't sleep over Rick
I'm
Pitino's
gonna
team.
go. I'll go Iona here.
Iona's a competitive.
Although I've watched them and I haven't even been that impressed with them. They won their conference. I'm trying to not 1,000% sure what conference that is, but I remember watching that game and just being like, it was so back and forth. It was just a super slow paced game, and I think it's kind of Iona's game. That was the MAC is what they won, the MAAC. So.
All right. Number 6 TCU against number 11 Arizona State or Nevada. This one is not determined yet, as Arizona State and Nevada play tonight. I think Arizona State could pull off that 11 seed upset if they make it. But if we're going to go benefit of the doubt, TCU plays in the Big 12 once again.
Yeah.
So I lean TCU. I don't know where you two go with this one.
Yeah, I really hope Arizona State wins that game. I'd love that Arizona State TCU matchup. I think that'd give us a really good game. That being said, though, yeah, I lean TCU as well.
Okay, cool with that.
Grand Canyon, who's 14, goes against the powerhouse in Gonzaga. Super experienced team. Drew Timmy's probably one of my favorite players in the NCAA right now. I lean heavily for Gonzaga in this one.
Yeah, I do too.
Yep, definitely.
All right, and then our last matchup of the first round is number 7 Northwestern against number 10 Boise State.
Now, I've heard Boise State's like a lights out 3-point shooting team.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with their game, so I've said Northwestern in the past. I'm not too sure though.
I'm leaning Northwestern. I think Northwestern. Boise's 1-1 versus top 25s. I like looking at that. And Northwestern's 4-1. They've definitely performed in ranked games that they've been in. So
yeah, they beat Purdue and beat Indiana twice. Like that's impressive.
They're about as streaky as Indiana. Honestly, they can be hot and cold.
Yeah, I'll take Northwestern. They're battle tested.
All right, so Northwestern moves on to the round of 32. We're gonna have to pick up this pace a little bit.
Yeah, we could just kind of like brief, just kind of like say who we think because we already kind of know about the teams a little.
Okay, so we have 1 Alabama versus 9 West Virginia. Brandon Miller is just going to be too much.
He's going to be Brandon Miller. He's going to be the best player in college basketball, and he's going to carry Alabama even if they don't need carried.
Yep. So I'm going Alabama.
Okay. Alabama.
Yeah, Bama.
All right. That was a clean sweep. Number 12 Charleston against number 4 Virginia.
Charleston had a good win in the first round, but I lean Virginia here with experience. I like Virginia to move on to the Sweet 16.
I like Virginia with the experience too. I could see Charleston pulling this one out just because I almost had Virginia getting bounced in the first round.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that it's just can kind of be an easy path for Virginia. So.
Yes. Yeah. And Michael, where do you lean with this one?
I would have picked Charleston, but I'm fine with Virginia going on. I think both teams would lose to Bama.
Why would you have went Charleston?
I'm looking at the matchup of it all, and it's more favorable towards Virginia, but if Charleston's coming out, and they beat San Diego State, they're already kind of feeling it, and they're just kind of carrying that into Virginia.
So you're saying that you feel a Cinderella vibe to them?
There's always a Cinderella vibe. There's always one.
I'll flip the script and I'll go Charleston.
Whoa!
Sorry, kid. I just like I said, if Virginia doesn't make their shots,
didn't he?
If Virginia doesn't make their shots, they're done. They play too slow.
Yep.
And I think both teams lose to Bama anyway. So
it doesn't really matter next round.
Exactly.
Number 6 Creighton against number 3 Baylor.
I like Creighton here.
I like Creighton. I like Creighton's big 3.
All right, so another upset.
I don't know if that one's that much of an upset.
Yeah.
Is that?
I'm just not a big Baylor believer.
Is that going back to that statistic from earlier? That defensive statistic?
Yeah. That's where it nips Baylor right there.
All right.
What do you guys think about this game?
Well, same stat with number 7 Mizzou against number 2 Arizona. I don't think we stand a chance.
We're not going to beat Arizona.
Really?
No, Arizona's too dangerous. I mean, I think the way Mizzou plays is so physical, and it's hard to game plan for the way we run our defense, but that'd be their only advantage going into this game, so I do like Arizona here.
Okay.
All right, moving on to Purdue's portion of the bracket. This is where I have Purdue falling out against Memphis. Purdue's been mediocre toward this back end of the season, and Memphis has been on the uprise. I like Memphis in this game. Like I said, they're my sleeper team in this tournament, so I lean Memphis.
I could totally see Memphis here, but I'm going to believe in Edey. I think he's going to do everything he can to get Purdue to the next round, so I'll go Purdue here.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% that Purdue is falling off while Memphis has climbed, but I feel like Purdue is just being underrated so much at this point where they're going to want to prove that they were the number 1 team for a reason.
I would love to see the point spread on that game if Purdue does match up against Memphis, what it looks like, and that might tick them off a little bit and make them go out there and play harder.
Well, dang. So much for me flipping on Virginia. All right, so we have number 4 Tennessee against number 5 Duke. I said it earlier. I'm not high on Tennessee. Duke's been hot toward the end of the season. I lean heavily Duke in this one.
I lean Duke here too. I think it's going to be a close competitive game, but I just feel like Duke's going to be able to pull it away.
Yeah, I'm fine with Duke, but Tennessee being ranked second BPI, it just must be because their defense is.
Their defense is really good. It's
Yeah.
just, they're so streaky.
I think it's just all clicking at the right time for Duke.
Yeah, it's bad matchup in my opinion.
I think Duke is a crazy good 5.
Yeah. Number 3 K-State against number 11 Providence. I'm on that Kansas State train. I don't know much about Providence, so this could nip me.
I feel
But-
K-State here, but for some reason I'm going to go Providence. I think it's going to be a close game.
First
either way
year
you
head
look at it.
coach.
So
I could see that biting
Yeah.
K-State.
I think this is where it
If I
gets
had
them.
seen more Providence, I maybe would pick them, but K-State's really good. From all the games I've watched, and I just got to pick them.
Number 2 Marquette against number 10 USC. I lean heavily Marquette here.
yeah, I like USC. I think they get a good upset win in the first round, but I don't see them getting by.
Nobody's talking about Marquette though. It's really
Marquette.
weird.
Yeah,
They've been good all year, and like nobody's really given them that much of a chance, including me, because I said they could be the lone 2 that loses in the first
Yeah.
round. You go Marquette, Michael.
Yeah.
Number 1 Houston against number 9 Auburn. It could come back to that injury for Houston,
Yeah.
but I think there's too much power on that team. Auburn's pretty streaky,
yep,
so I go Houston personally.
I agree. I go Houston. I think their defense is just going to be too much for Auburn's offense. That's just not that strong, anyways. So
Yeah, I will too.
Interesting matchup here. Number 5 Miami against number 13 Kent State.
I'm gonna go. I said it. I'm gonna go Kent State because of the injury, and then Kent State comes off the win against Indiana. We got Charleston and Kent State, riding this.
I like Kent State in the first round, but man, they're just not battle tested at all. And I think Miami's just going to be too much for them. Personally, I got Miami here.
As much as I want to move on Kent State, I agree with Cade. If it is just a minor ankle injury, I don't see Miami losing this game. Although Kent State does play lights-out defense, I think Miami's just got too much offensive firepower for them, so I'm going to go Miami. Number 3 Xavier against number 6 Iowa State. I didn't even want to take Iowa State in the first round, so you know where I'm leaning.
Well, you got my vote, too. I think Xavier
Yeah.
beats Iowa State here. I like Xavier.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. This next game though, woo.
It's probably the game of if this happens, it's probably the game of the second round. Honestly,
Yeah, definitely one of my top games here. This would be extremely fun to watch. I do lean the higher seed here, though. The way I watch, I get Kansas was out, Bill Self, and one of their best players, but even then, Texas is just good, man. They are good. I got Texas here.
yeah. Texas is going to be too deep for A&M, I think. But I mean, it should be a fun matchup if that's the matchup we get.
Mm-hmm. And I could definitely see it being A&M. I mean, if A&M gets hot,
I could too. If they get hot,
this game's one of those coin flip games.
yeah, I agree. But I lean Texas.
I'm cool with Texas.
All right.
I don't know if you guys realize this, but we've now made our Midwest and our East both 1-5-3-2. 1-5-3-2.
Fantastic. Well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I would doubt that. But, we move on.
So, the next matchup, we have number 1 Kansas against number 9 Illinois.
Give me Illinois, baby.
You want Illinois in
I
this
want
matchup?
Illinois.
I want Illinois. I'm picking Kansas. I think I have a difference between what
I said, I
I want and
can't
what I
see-
think is going to happen.
Like I said, I usually see one seed get bounced in the first round or second round, and to me it would have to be Purdue. The other ones are just too strong. I got to lean Kansas on this one.
Yeah, you're right. That's that. Going back to that Memphis Purdue game. Yeah, you're right. I definitely could see Memphis winning that one. And if you're saying if one had to lose, that's where it would be. I think.
Yeah. Too late now.
Yeah.
You already made up your mind. So now we have number 4 UConn against number 12 VCU. I think this could be a great matchup, but I think UConn has just been too hot all year to
Yeah, I like UConn a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking UConn.
I don't like kicking out VCU, but I think UConn's just too much for them.
Dan Hurley's got that team. They're just going on all cylinders. So I'll go UConn too.
We got our super experienced team in Gonzaga against number 6 TCU, and I could see this being an upset personally. I know Gonzaga's defense isn't the greatest, and TCU has a really good defense.
This is a good game, but
I'm going to say TCU on this
I
one.
just love Gonzaga's point spread. And I get they don't play in the strongest conference, but pretty much opponents 73 points per game. Their points per game 87.5. They know how to score. They know how to play defense. They've been in the tournament so many times. I have to go lean Gonzaga here.
Give me the Horned Frogs, baby.
That hurts. I love the Zags so much.
And Timmy's done, just like that.
All right.
Number 2, UCLA. It's number 7, Northwestern. Honestly, an interesting matchup here, too. But UCLA has Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell.
Yeah, they are really good.
Yeah,
But Northwest got hot for some reason.
for some reason.
I don't know why, but they got hot right in the tournament. They won the last game. I'll go Northwest here.
Where you want to go, Michael?
Purely based off of what we've picked and looking at all the seeds, and we don't have a 2 seed losing, it makes me want to go Northwestern.
UCLA is so good, too.
I know that's the problem. Because like it's not going to line up like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or making it. Like it just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, when there's 3 people picking, not enough of us want to be crazy. So
Yeah. So I'll be crazy with you. I'm going Northwestern, even though I have UCLA winning some of my.
yeah, it hurts, doesn't it? It hurts when your Final Four team gets knocked out.
I have UCLA winning a lot, like 2 of my brackets.
If we're going to do that, can we switch to Memphis pick? Come on.
Yeah, we could switch.
If we switch the
to
Memphis pick, I would switch my vote to UCLA.
Okay, yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm cool
All right,
with
all
that.
right, all right.
All right, so we're
Memphis.
switching. UCLA beats Northwestern, but we will say in the round of 32, Memphis does beat Purdue.
This is a democracy.
We revoted, recalculated the votes, and made some changes. All right, on to the Sweet 16.
Alabama, Charleston, we pretty much already said this last round.
Charleston.
The Cinderella run comes to an end because Brandon Miller is him.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see Charleston win this one, just to have that Cinderella story. But, yeah, I do think I got to go Alabama here.
Yeah, me too.
Number 6, Creighton against number 2, Arizona.
I think that'd be a good game, but I just Arizona looks so good in their conference tournament, and they're just looking hot right now. And Creighton has kind of been inconsistent in points. I mean, they've been definitely better down the stretch than they were. They had that middle of the season where they weren't doing good at all, but I'll lean Arizona here.
Yeah, Arizona's offensive firepower is elite.
Yep.
I lean Arizona.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
I would want to see Creighton just because I don't know why. I've always liked Creighton. But number 5, Duke against number 8, Memphis. I've heard this is a terrible matchup for Memphis if they get to this point.
Yeah.
Just
And Duke's red hot and I think underseeded.
yeah. I'm gonna go Duke on this one,
I agree.
but I could see Memphis winning it just as that sneaky team.
That'd be a fun matchup.
Yeah.
Though.
That'd be a great game.
So I'm gonna go Duke on this one.
K-State. Yeah, I'll go Duke, but K-State Marquette.
That would be
That's
a
a good
great
game.
one. This
Marquette's really good.
Marquette is
like
really
Keontae
good.
Johnson, but I like Marquette a lot. I didn't love them in their tournament. I watched some of their games. I mean, for all the hype they were getting, I know they had a really close game against, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Xavier, maybe for a while. It was close. Actually, no, UConn, when they beat UConn. And UConn's really good, too, but they had a 2-point win against UConn. They kind of beat Xavier pretty well, but I'll lean Marquette here.
Yeah, I want to go Marquette too. I think K-State's really turnover prone, or not. Yeah, I don't even know if that's the correct word, but we're gonna roll with it. But Marquette's been good all year. K-State kind of been up and down recently. They're my favorite team out of the Big 12, but I'm gonna go Marquette.
And then Houston, Miami.
Yeah, I didn't like Houston or Miami anyways throughout any game, and I think here's where it definitely runs out against Houston.
Yeah.
And I think any injury they have, I think it's just a groin injury. Hopefully he'll be back by the Sweet 16 for sure.
Yeah. I agree. I lean Houston here, 100%.
And then Xavier, Texas.
Got to go Texas.
What do you got, Michael?
I don't even know, man. I haven't seen Xavier play, so that's why I just don't know. But I'll go with Texas.
Yeah, and I think
But I don't like 1-2.
that creates our
1-2.
second matchup for the state of Texas with Houston and Texas playing. So I'll lean Texas too.
Just because. Okay, so next game is Kansas against UConn, and I'm just gonna use Michael's logic here of the ones and twos and
Yeah.
all that
Gotta have a
agree.
statistic stuff.
I agree.
I don't like Kansas losing, but
I think UConn can do it.
I think
It
UConn
just,
can
it
do
just
it.
makes sense. It just when I read the headline, it makes sense.
It does make sense.
I can see it.
All right, let's go UConn.
All right,
UConn.
we're going UConn.
And then even though we had UCLA losing in the last round, I do lean UCLA against TCU.
Yeah,
I
do
do too. That's a bad matchup for TCU if
Yeah.
they get UCLA.
Yep.
All right, so the Elite Eight, number 1 Alabama against number 2 Arizona, and this is where I don't like Alabama's matchup. If it does get to this point,
I have watched Alabama play so many times this year, and I just think even on a bad day they're good, and even on a bad day Brandon Miller can put the team on his back and win. So I like Alabama here personally. But you guys, what do you guys think?
What do you think, Gage?
I'm gonna go Arizona. A lot of offensive firepower, like I said before, but Alabama has the best player in the tourney.
Yeah.
To this point, anyway.
Yeah, that's why
I'm going to go Arizona.
I'm gonna pick Bama just because of Brandon Miller.
I don't have a problem with that at all. Number 2 Marquette against number 5 Duke. Another great matchup.
Yeah.
And I think this is where Duke's magic run comes to an end.
Gosh, I
honestly.
just don't know. This would be such a good game too here, but yeah, I think I'm leaning. I have had Duke win this game in in 2 of my tournaments, so I'll lean Marquette here. Although I think Duke could win this game, I think it'd just be so close. It's so hard to call. What are you thinking, Michael?
I'm fine with that.
Marquette
Yeah,
to the Final Four.
It sounds odd.
Yeah,
It sounds very-
doesn't sound right. I honestly think Duke would win this, but we'll go Marquette. I think it's fun.
Just be different.
Yeah.
Why not? Number 1 Houston against number 2 Texas. Battle of Texas.
I think I don't love Houston as a 1 seed anyways, and I think they've kind of had just an easy-ish pass. I won't say super easy, but they got to the Elite Eight, but I think it runs out here against Texas.
Yeah, that's where I lean too. Texas kind of low-key ran the Big 12. Not really, but I lean Texas here.
yeah, I'll go Texas, but it's good to mention if they make it to the Final Four, Houston has home games for.
Oh, yeah,
here
that is
on
true.
out.
Ooh, I didn't even realize that. Huh.
Yeah,
And then number 4 UConn against number 2 UCLA.
I have no clue.
I don't either. UCLA,
Just because the net
they're
average.
so experienced.
If you average the seeds of your Final Four, it usually ends up being around like a 5 to a 6 seed is where you average everyone's seeds together, and I think moving UCLA for me would hurt that average. So I'll lean UConn here in an upset.
I'll lean UCLA just because of experience, Jaime Jaquez and
Why'd you do
Tiger
it to me?
Campbell.
So, Michael, you got a decision to make.
Going higher seed, baby, UConn.
UConn knocks out UCLA.
Jeez, what a mess of a Final Four. Not really. Alabama, Texas is like pretty common, but
Yeah.
Marquette, UConn, you don't see much. So we have Alabama versus Marquette, and I'd love to pick Marquette here, but I don't see
I think
them.
Arizona was a tougher game for Alabama than Marquette would be.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm telling you, I got Bama, UConn.
You got Bama, UConn.
Bama and the Huskies.
I've had 2 brackets. I do 2 brackets usually, and both of mine have been Alabama, Texas.
I know.
So
It
and
seems like such a gimme,
to put
though.
it out there, I do think Alabama, Texas is the most common championship, or one of the ones I've seen a lot, and that's the one I believe it will be. But for say here, I'll go UConn.
Yes.
I'll do it. I'll just jump on that train. Why not?
UConn winning it all?
This is where
Let's pick the score first.
Well, picking the score would mean I picked a winner too. So I'll go Alabama 74, UConn 70.
Okay. Who are you picking to win?
I gotta lean Bama here. Honestly,
I think this is an easier game than
or
the last two games.
Or it just comes down to the fact that UConn's on such a hot streak. If this happens,
yes, if UConn can make it this far, I mean,
why not just let them finish it? Honestly,
they're freaking insane right now if they
All
made
right.
it this far.
Bama's the national champs.
You're going Bama?
Yeah.
so common.
Yeah, it's just
Eh.
it's almost
Ain't gonna
I
happen.
almost hope if there's a one that loses, I hope it's Alabama because the amount of people are like, well, throw away my bracket.
All right, so we'll go Alabama over UConn as the first quarter's national champion. Kind of a boring pick, but had an interesting run here.
You know, I think I'd win against my knowledge of sports a couple times there. So at least in the end, I can pick the team I actually think is going to win it all.
I'll go 81-74, high scoring game.
I went 74-62.
Ooh, you think it's going to be a nice little win for Bama?
Yeah.
Are we all just gonna submit this for Kyle's class for that extra credit?
Maybe.
How'd you guys end up with the same score? I don't know.
His brackets are
Luck.
identical.
Oh man. All right. So we have Alabama against UConn and our natty, and Alabama winning the tournament with Brandon Miller as the MVP, more than likely.
If they make it that far, I'd think definitely Brandon Miller. And I do feel like a lot of times when you have the best player in the country, you don't win. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. For some reason, it reminds me of but I feel like they'll get to the Final Four but lose, even though I think they're going to win in all mine. I don't know why I'm saying this, but it reminds me of the Buddy Hield. I remember how electric Buddy Hield was for Oklahoma, and I think he just carried them to about the Final Four. I think Miller has a better team around him, but I don't
Or it's
know.
kind of like the Jalen Suggs,
Yeah,
Gonzaga team.
exactly.
All that
definitely.
stuff.
Has that vibe to him for some reason.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Bama's an interesting team. I just, again, this year, I lean, in my individual bracket, I went Kansas.
Winning it all.
Yeah.
Whoa.
The problem with that is that repeats just don't happen. that
That's
much.
why I couldn't do it. That's why I was not against him losing to teams like UConn or losing to. I think I have him losing to Gonzaga, but it's just the repeats don't happen.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun tournament this year. It's so wide open.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like last year I was I knew it was going to be Kansas last year, but I just the Missouri Tiger in me wouldn't allow me to
Denial.
pick Kansas. So, yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Where did you guys both pick Bama in your personal brackets?
I picked UCLA.
UCLA, Kansas, and Bama. Is that who you guys all think is going to be the national champion? We can say it here right now. Who actually think wins it?
My gut says Kansas. My brain says not Kansas. I don't know. Open door.
My pick is Alabama, and yours is UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to watch UCLA win another one, but
All right, so we have come to the end of our show. We'll be back on our regular schedule on Monday. Thank you for tuning in. This has been the first quarter.